Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the home studio on this, the 18th day of July in the year 2023. Sure hope you're enjoying your Tuesday, no matter where you are in the country. Here in the Northeast, in Harrison, New Jersey, 79 degrees. Very humid day again. Boy, it's been humid, but imagine this. Death Valley, California. If you've never heard of Death Valley, California, you should go to weather.com and search the town's name. It is 122 degrees there. Now, the humidity is low, so it's not that oppressive, but the reports say that if you're outside for more than 20 minutes, it can start to affect a human body. That's how hot it is, even without the humidity. So imagine being in Death Valley, California, which gets its name very, very aptly for sure. So even though it's 79 and feels like pretty sticky here, it could be a heck of a lot worse if you were in Death Valley. And I my stepbrother used to live out there. I don't know how he did it. He only lived there for a year, I think. But what a very, very hot place that is on the planet. So, as you do each and every Tuesday afternoon, you welcome me into your home so that I can bring you this week's newspaper. And we're going to start off right at the very top with this week's lead story, and that is that Peter Santana is now the mayor of Kearny on an interim basis. Last Tuesday night, the Kearny Town Council got together. The 8 remaining members of the Town Council were faced with 3 names submitted by the county committee. The names were Pete Santana, who is now the mayor, Carol Jean Doyle, the council president, and Susan McCurry, who is the vice chairwoman of the Democratic Party of Kearny. And the nomination was made by Eileen Eckel, the 3rd Ward councilwoman, and the vote total was 5-3. And that was the closest possible vote that it could have been, because if it had been let's just say it had been a 5, if it was anything different would not have worked. There had to be at least 5 votes. So if somebody had been absent and it was a 4-3 vote, that would not have been good enough, based on the fact that it has to be an absolute majority in order for the person to take the mayoralty. As we welcome in Larry Hanlon. Larry, good to see you. Thank you for popping by as you do so often. I appreciate that very much. So what ultimately it came down to was that Santana needed and had 5 votes, and he becomes the interim mayor of Kearny for what will be right now at least the next 111 days, because on the first Tuesday of November there will be a special election. Santana will be one of the candidates. Carol Jean Doyle has already announced that she is planning to run as well, and this opens up the field as well, because anybody else who is interested in running for the mayoralty may do so, provided they meet all of the eligibility requirements, some of which are you have to be an American citizen, 18 years of age, you have to have lived in Kearny for at least 1 year prior to that particular election date, and there are a few others as well. So I'm not sure if I've heard of anybody else thinking about a run, but it is certainly possible that there could be more than 2 candidates. And what makes this so unique is that there won't be a primary. So a large field could make it a very wide open election. When there's 2 candidates between Peter and Carol Jean, I think what you're going to see there is a pretty close election there. But if there are more than 2 candidates, God knows what happens from there. But we will see. So for the time being, Pete Santana is the interim mayor of Kearny. If he wins in November, the interim tag comes off. If not, Carol Jean Doyle takes over for the mayor's seat, and then Santana, unfortunately, will be out because he had to resign his 2nd Ward seat as a member of the town council in order to accept a mayoralty. So we will see. It's going to be a very, very interesting couple of months, to say the least, to see how it goes in the election. And it'll be very interesting to see how Pete handles being the mayor. He was a good councilman in the 2nd Ward. He is represent. He started in 2017, so he's been there for 7 years, and we'll see how that goes. But it will be interesting to say the least, and I expect there will be some more fireworks because, look, I don't care what anybody says. This is a divided council now. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't care what. There have been people who have tried to convince me that they're not divided. The votes tell otherwise. So we'll see how it goes if they get along. Now, keep something else in mind too, that they have to replace Pete Santana as well in the second ward for the second ward seat. So I would imagine that's the next order of business, as it would also be to pick a chairman of the party. So there'll be a lot of news to come in the next few weeks about this election. We'll bring it to you as soon as we know anything about it, whether it's live, in print, or online. And I'm just going to put up these any comments that come in. Larry Hanlon says True Colors came out. I suppose that's in regard to the election. So as we move along, the second story this week, Nutley war hero who was killed in the Pacific in 1944. His name was Anthony DePetta, and he was shot down in a jet aircraft over the Pacific Ocean in 1944, and they declared him unrecoverable between 1946 and 1947. And they just presumed that they would never find his remains, but there was a special project in the early 2000s. They found the site where the plane went down, and his remains were indeed recovered. And last week, he came home after 79 years. What an incredible story out of Nutley. So Anthony DePetta, who was killed in action on September 10th, 1944, has finally come home. Check that out on page number 1. Now, if you have not been to Bergen County Park in North Arlington, you have not yet seen the band shell. It's like a semi-theater, amphitheater as they're calling it. And it's just about done, but they have been having some concerts over there, and there'll be another one on the 25th of July. And what they're doing is pretty intriguing. They're splitting it up between the county of Bergen and the borough of North Arlington as to who is sponsoring the concert. But they're all going to be at the same spot in this beautiful new amphitheater that has been in the making for a couple of years. It took a little bit longer because of a difficult time for getting some raw materials. This happened with COVID, that so many materials became unavailable, but now it's pretty much done, and they're starting the concert series. There were a couple in the early part of July, and there are a couple of more as well, but the next one is the 25th of July, and it's every other week until the end of the summer. So you can check that story out on page number 3 if you're interested in finding out more about the concerts. They don't cost a dime, so if you have a lawn chair and a blanket, head on over. You will enjoy it. They always are fun. The Boy Scout Troop 305 in Kearny, St. Stephen's, recently had a court of honor for 2 new Eagle Scouts. You can see their photos here. I don't want to tell you too much, so I want you to read this. They are very much involved. The 2 boys are in their parishes and their schools, and their projects were incredible. And we found out about it this weekend, and we wanted to share that news with you, that they had the Court of Honor a couple of weeks ago, and now there are 2 new Eagle Scouts in the town of Kearny. Also in this week's edition of The Observer, there are a couple of letters that we received this week. One is from Frank Fleischman of Belleville. The other is from Emma Quintana, who runs Mujeres Valientes, which is Brave Women breast cancer survivor group that is in East Newark. As we get to the blotter that Mike Gontarchuk did this week, this was one of the more intense blotter entries that I can recall, because there were a series of crimes a couple of months ago, and Mike and Dave Bush, I believe, arrested this woman because after these crimes that took place, it was a juvenile on juvenile crime. There was a witness to one of the crimes, and the mother of one of the suspects was threatening to kill the witness. for speaking up. She told her that she would kill her if she didn't recant her story. Really classy, really classy situation here. So the detectives investigated, and they eventually arrested this woman who reportedly made 40 obscene and harassing phone calls to this woman who simply saw crime and said something about it. See, this is so often why so many people are afraid to report when they see a serious crime, because they're afraid of repercussions. And then you see something like this where this idiot goes ahead and threatens to kill the woman because she saw the crime take place. Absolutely ridiculous. So to Mike Gontarchuk and Dave Bush, great job getting this woman off the streets. And, you know, she could have surrendered and they would have released her that day, but she refused to surrender, so they had to go pick her up. And lo and behold, she got remanded to the jail. So she could have made it a lot easier. She made it very difficult, and now she's paying the price. And I don't usually editorialize, but I say good in this case. Well done, gentlemen, for getting her. Macy Cavello, is this year's Jim Hague Female Athlete of the Year. Macy was a recent graduate of Kearny High School, and she won the award. She's a 3-sport athlete. Jason Bernstein has a wonderful review of her. She's a great athlete who's going on to Felician College in the fall, so she'll stick nearby. But I hope you'll take a chance and read about this spectacular young lady who was wonderful in the sports that she participated in and all the things that she did. She's involved in other things as well. It's not just sports, but she is the 2023 Jim Hague Observer Athlete of the Year. And Jason also has 2 other stories as well in sports this week, so please check those out when you can. This was an alert that was given to us about from the Nutley Police Department, and this is just happening everywhere, but it's pretty prevalent in Nutley, where people are stealing catalytic converters off of cars, sometimes in broad daylight, folks. I don't know what to tell you, because there's really no simple solution, because there's no catalytic converter boxes to put on cars, and if you don't have a enclosed garage, there's very little you can do. But you know, if you have cameras, make sure you park your car, I suppose, within view, because it only takes a couple of minutes for these people to get them off. They have a high street value, and that's why so many of them have been stolen, and sometimes they're stolen in such blatantly open conditions. So just be aware of that. And of course, if you're driving and your car acts up, or you smell rotten eggs or something really repugnant, you may have to get your catalytic converter checked out to see if it's even still there, because it's possible it won't be. But there has been a severe uptick in the township of Nutley, so just be aware and alert of that, not just in Nutley, but everywhere that you go. We have 2 pages of classifieds this week, so if you are looking for an apartment to rent, if you are looking for a job, or if you are looking for work to be done at home, we have plenty of classifieds for you in this week's edition. I hope you'll check those out on pages number 16 and 17. And of course, if you need one, you can get it from us. And the deadline for that is every Monday at around 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that's going to do it. We're done already. Kind of breezed through today, but we're done for this edition. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, if there's any news to report, especially in regard to the election, we'll bring it to you live. So check it out, and you'll get alerts if you're on Facebook. It should give you an alert whenever we go live, so that you will know before anybody else does about what's going on. And if anything else breaks, we will bring that to you during the course of the week as well. Otherwise, we'll see you a week from today, and we hope to see you back here again very, very soon. So from the home studio today, Kevin Canessa signing off for now, and we will talk to you 1 week from today, if not sooner. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Stay cool, stay dry. Bye-bye.